No. I'd like to call the March meeting of the Manchester Township Board of Education to order. May I have a roll call, please?
Mr. Staples.
Here.
Ms. Mount. Here. Mr. Keller.
Here.
Mr. Servant. Here. Mr. Murphy. Ms. Winkler.
Here.
Ms. Viscardi.
Here.
Mr. Bader. Here. Adequate notice was published as required press on Friday, March 4th, specifying the time and place of a meeting. Statement to this effect shall be entered in the minutes of this meeting, where Section 8 of the Open Public Meetings Act permits exclusion of the public from meeting in certain circumstances. Whereas this public body is of the opinion that such circumstances presently exist. Now therefore be it resolved by the Manchester Township Board of Education as follows. The public shall be excluded from discussion here and after specified subject matters. The general nature of the subject matters to be discussed is legal personnel negotiations. It's anticipated these matters will be made public within 60 days. This resolution shall become effective immediately. Have a motion, please.
Motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye. We'll be back in about a half hour. All right, I'd like to reconvene the March meeting, Manchester Township Board of Education. May I have a roll call, please?
Mr. Staples.
Here.
Ms. Mount.
Here.
Mr. Kelleher.
Here.
Mr. Servant. Ms. Winkler.
Here.
Ms. Viscardi.
Here.
Here. Please join me in the flag salute.
United States of America. Stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice.
Thank you. All right. Thank you all for coming out. Nice to see many people here. Great. My report will be very short, as it usually is. I was able to attend a volleyball game between Manchester and Jackson this week. Last week, actually. Last week, so it was good to see. A little disappointing we don't have a freshman boys volleyball. We have enough boys go out for it?
We were just talking about
We had some numbers that were conceivable to make a team together, but putting the schedule together was really challenging. There's only a couple of teams in Ocean County that have a team. That was a challenge. And, we're hoping that if we continue to get some numbers, it will get better for us to maybe add a program.
Just with SEL, I think we need to get these kids involved in as much stuff as we possibly can. And it's, if we can, it's not too late, season ain't started yet. We could possibly see wait to do anything out. Jackson has one, Lakewood has one, Howell has one, I think one of the Points has one. There's quite a few freshmen came around, so you might have more success than you think. Just to throw it out there. There's with SEL to get kids involved is great. We need that. Another thing, this last week I went to a workshop on, let me get this straight, LGBTQA question mark. Right. On the rights in the curriculum and all the things we have to start including. Very informative. I think we're ahead of most districts in getting this stuff incorporated, and it was quite interesting. I wasn't aware of the A in the question mark. But it's out there, and we are, I think, ahead of most districts in getting there. So it was an informative workshop to go to. All right, that's it.
All right, so we have some presentations. We have some presentations tonight. We're going to start off with the audit presentation delivered by Mr. David Gannon. Welcome.
Good evening.
golf clap back there for you.
What's up?
There was a little golf clap.
So, it's amazing. I remember years ago when we used to actually have the audit presentation in October. And it's March now. So I just like to let the board know that it's not as a result of anything, bad going on in the business office, not that we're not doing our jobs. It's just that the state of New Jersey requires to provide certain information that has to go into each audit report. The state just continues to have a struggle in providing that information. So the revised deadline this year was March 15th. We would file a report in accordance with that revised deadline. First off, I just want to thank the district staff, district administration. Year in and year out, we receive excellent cooperation. We have about 3 people on site for 3 weeks. We're requesting a lot of information. The school year is starting. We always receive our requests timely. I would find that the staff is very professional, very courteous, great attitudes. So we really do appreciate that. And it's also important to remember it's not just an order of the business office. Purchasing, payroll, student activities, student counts, happens all throughout the district. So it's very important to have processes and procedures throughout the district so that things can happen and you follow statute, administrative code. There's so many different statute, administrative codes that you have to follow. And the district has consistently had those processes and procedures in place. Also, I'd congratulate the district on receiving the Certificate of Excellence in Financial Reporting yet again. It's the 26th straight year, quite an accomplishment. So congratulations to the district and the business office. We've issued a modified opinion on financial statements. What that means is that your financial statements present in accordance with general Mississippi County principles and all the requirements of the Department of Education. I'll tell you that the business office does a great job in compiling those monthly reports. So really, those monthly reports that you get every meeting, they're high quality, they're accurate. Overall, the district's financial position is really strong. At the end of the general fund balance of $7.4 million, which was a $2 million increase from the prior year. Things to understand regarding that, not all was unrestricted, some of it's restricted for certain purposes. $772,000 was already reserved and being utilized in your 2022 budget. $1.6 million is restricted for capital reserve. About $1 million is restricted for maintenance reserve. You have an unrestricted fund balance of $3.4 million. That's a significant increase from the prior year of 1.7. One thing to understand regarding unrestricted this past year, there was a change in legislation that allowed districts to increase the amount of unrestricted fund balance they had from year to year, just to ensure that they had additional flexibility as a result of the pandemic. So for the fiscal year 21 audit that fiscal year 21 year we just audited, as well as the 22 fiscal year that we're in now, 4% is permitted. It's not known whether the legislation will extend that or go back to the 2% starting in fiscal year 23. I haven't heard anything yet about that, so just something to keep in mind. And $245,000 is considered an excess surplus. That's required to utilize in your 23 budget. In the capital projects fund, there was about $165,000 remaining from the old referendum project. That was closed out. That money was transferred over to the debt service fund to provide future tax relief. Regional day school, there have been a number of years I had expressed some concerns with the board regarding continued losses in regional day school. But again, I'm happy to report over the last few years, regional day school continues to have positive gains. And at the end of June 30, 21, the fund balance was $1.8 million. So that's very significant, very healthy, certainly much improved from a number of years ago. Based on the level of funding that the district gets from federal and state purposes, we're also required to do a federal and state single audit. We've issued an unmodified opinion on compliance. What that means is that we didn't find any compliance errors, any question costs. And then this year, it's a very important note, you had a number of stimulus programs. So those were all incorporated in our grant procedures. And lastly, we didn't find any findings that require corrective action. So no internal control failures, no statutory findings, no issues, no weakness, no mistakes. As I mentioned, the district has long had a good system of internal controls in place. Even through transition, a number of transitions have happened in the business office and a number of other positions in the district. And they either bring in the right people, promote from within, and it seems that those processes and procedures are in place, and people know how to follow them, and the district kind of continues seamlessly. With that, if there's any questions, I'll be more than happy to answer them.
So we chose an unqualified opinion.
Unmodified opinion.
And that's the highest we can get.
That's the highest you get.
And I just want to, I also just I want to thank Dave and his team because, like you said, this is a fairly intensive process. They are out anywhere between 3 and 4 weeks, depending on what's going on over for a couple periods of time. Sometimes they pop out for a day here and there. They are very respectful of the fact that we are at work, and, they work with us throughout this process. So I want to thank them for that. And the certificate of excellence, this is something that it's not a business office award. It's not an award for me. This is an award for the district, because basically what it does is it shows that this board supports fiscal transparency. And we can't achieve this award without everybody in the district doing their part. So I just want to thank everybody, for another good year, and again, like Dave said, with the amount of federal, state, local regulations that come out each year, new requirements, everybody just seems to adjust and do what they have to do. So I just want to say thank you to Dave and his guys, and thank you to my board office staff and the staff in the schools and the staff in our departments for doing their part to help us achieve this.
Thank you. Next, we have our PTA coming up for our mini grant presentations.
Hi, I'm Kelly Dunkley, and this is Kelly Sales. Kelly and I were asked to make wishes come true tonight because we have been active PTA and mini grant committee members the longest. I believe the word they used was the oldest. Kelly has been a member of the PTA since her oldest daughter, Katie, started school here in the district 18 years ago. I joined the PTA after moving to Whiting in 2009. At the time that I joined the PTA, there were approximately 25 key PTA volunteers. Key volunteers are considered persons who hold a board or committee position and whose home school might be Whiting, but if they're needed to step in at MTES for any reason, they run over there and help out. About 7 years ago, for safety reasons, parents were no longer allowed to go into the classroom for any child class parties or any in-school activities. That significantly hurt the PTA because we were no longer able to network with new parents to try and get them to help out. The board and committee members, networking, and our volunteer number of key volunteers dropped down to about 12. Today, as we enter the endemic, we have 6 to 7 key volunteers working to benefit 6 schools and approximately 2,900 students. I'm addressing this tonight because for the 2022-23 school year, PTA has almost 30 vacant spots between board and committee, including 2 very important positions. We no longer will have a president or a secretary next year. Since there are quite a few administrators, teachers, and staff here, I'm requesting that if you know of any parent or guardian who you believe would be a good fit for the PTA, someone who would want to help the district to enhance every student's education, that you please speak with them about becoming an active volunteer. That being said, the PTA's goal is to promote the welfare of children and to be an advocate for children in the home, the community, and in schools. Our largest fundraiser is our annual gift auction. Pre-pandemic, the gift auction committee was able to bring the gift auction to a level of 350 guests and over $30,000 a year in profits. Those funds were used to benefit the children of the 6 schools for events and programs, which included visiting offers, scholarships for our high school students, free hot cocoa day in all the schools, which as an aside is $2,000. And also our mini grants, which benefit our classrooms. Post-pandemic, the gift auction is in the rebuilding process and is headed by Angel Gaccarella. She and her committee are working hard to make the gift auction a success, so that we will have funds for next school year. The gift auction will be held on April 14th at the Clarion in Toms River. 250 guests are attending, and there's still 20 tickets available. The committee is also in desperate prize donations, so if you know of any local businesses that would be willing to donate, no matter how small or how big, I would be greatly appreciated. Information, including the donation request letter, can be found on the PTA Facebook page or on their website. Finally, the PTA grants. Each year, the PTA strives to help our teachers by distributing mini grants, which are used to purchase essential and beneficial items needed in our classrooms. This year, the mini grant committee, which is one of the most difficult, rewarding, and fun committees, was comprised of 6 volunteer parents, one of whom was a new PTA dad who had the privilege of spending 2 hours with 5 women, and we were allowed to spend up to $5,000. He had. A volunteer was chosen from each school with the PTA president monitoring in case a tiebreaker was needed. There were 3 levels of mini grant applications, under 200, 200 to 400, and 400 to 500. The committee met via Zoom on January 12th, and we had 2 days to review the applications, which were warned. We received 25 mini grant applications, requesting a total of $9,400. Unfortunately, one application was disqualified because it did not meet the rules. After careful review, consideration, and discussion, the committee was able to grant 13 applications for a total of $4,987.16, which means we spent all $12.80. We are extremely pleased to announce that this year, each school in the district had at least 1 application. And at the end, each school was awarded a mini grant. Considering that this was done blindly, that's pretty great. We're so happy about that. The high school was awarded 2 mini grants out of 5 applications. The middle school was awarded 1 mini grant out of 2 applications. Manchester Elementary was awarded 4 out of 5. Ridgeway Elementary was awarded 4 out of 6 applications. Whiting was awarded 1 out of 4 applications. Regional Day was awarded 1 out of 3 mini grant applications. And the recipients are
Lynn Spinelli from Ridgeway for Weber's Jumbo Articulation Drill Book and add-on books. Amanda Gerlich from MTES for Fluency, Roll and Talk, and add-on cards. Tanya Fora from the middle school for Highest Risk Books, Rebel Blue. Maria Mercado Wilson from Regional Day for a TFH swing seat with a pommel. Laura Henry from MTES for magnetic stem tiles. Alice McLean from MTES for Sergeant Art Tempera paint sticks. Jennifer Gilbert from MTES for STEM supplies. Christine Newberry and Rachel Kelly from the high school for 22 microbit V2 Go kits. Kelly Ramos from Ridgeway for 800-piece STEM straw construction set and 6 mini robot balls. Castro from Ridgeway for math games. Colleen Getz from Whiting for an LG X-Boom speaker system Go Low Limbo Set ribbon. Tina O'Connell from the high school for display easels. Jessica Taylor from Ridgeway for a Board Maker 7 standard.
board mind if we take a quick
That's,
picture?
that's what I'm gonna do for you. I'll send you.
Oh, okay, perfect.
Come on over here, please.
Fire guys.
Yeah, careful. Yeah, great. Stacy, you want to get it?
Oh, yeah.
Now, here. Oh, there we go. All right. I'm sure Chris is in the back. Okay, smile. Okay, great. Thanks.
Congratulations to everyone. Next, we have Mr. Rauscher, who's going to come up and give a technology update for the board notification.
Sorry, when I had this all set up and an update moved me out.
At least it wasn't virus. Yeah.
All right. Thanks, everybody, for having me here tonight. Give you a brief lowdown on some of the tech that we're doing. How's tech changed through the years in Manchester, even in my short time here, 4 years. With the pandemic, it really heightened the use of technology, and we've had full support with the board, and we greatly appreciated it and support the administration on where we've gone through the last 10 years in tech. So, technology in 2012, what it looked like in the district was almost non-existent. We had teacher and student classroom computers. They were hardwired. Part of the classrooms. No wireless network connectivity. There was local web filtering access going on each device. Really didn't really get a lot of reporting going on, other than block this website. A lot of manual processing done. There were computer labs, the student stations, where teachers would bring down their classroom. They would have to sign up for it, so the use of large numbers of kids was really limited. Projecting onto the screen, if you see here, we have like 7 displays. We were lucky to have 7 projectors in a building at a time, where the departments and grade levels were sharing projector carts. So that really was a heightened use of technology once that technology could help teachers. Limited to access communication platforms like email. Teachers and students didn't have access to those resources other than really administration for communication purposes. And now students, teachers, and all that have access. There was staff and student shared computer access to accounts. So, teachers and students would access the same desktop environment. There really was no ownership of what was being accessed on the computer. And then there was a systems-based grade student information system. So a lot of the information was still kept on paper. And then grades were kept on, they were entered into a system, but stored locally on a teacher's grade book, like the old green and white grade books. So what it looked like. So there was a lot of sneaker net going on. Sneaker nets were basically the technicians and whatnot would run around and fix the computer and install that data manually from the floppy disk or USB disk, and that's called sneaker netting. There was limited information security. There really wasn't a thing back in the day, 10 years ago. You heard little things of happening, but you had a virus maybe on a computer, but it didn't have the impact it doesn't. It was really slow network internet bandwidth speeds. If you probably had a 10 meg connection at each site, that was a really fast connection. There wasn't we have a EVPL, we have a fiber connection between all the buildings that really was non-existent. There's a hub-based network technology system in place, so you really didn't have the backward speeds that you have now. And there really was limited wireless infrastructure. So to be able to do all these great things with these mobile devices really wasn't, there wasn't that option. There was some local servers at each location. There was one technology coordinator and then one IT staff support member to support all that tech on site. What our current classroom technology looks like, we have over 3,000 plus student Chromebooks. We have over 500 staff Chromebooks, mobile desktops, computers, stuff like that. We have another 500 classroom desktops with staff computers, 250 classroom projector systems, 200 classroom network printers. What the support looks like that now. There's network wireless support, and we have to make sure wireless is active at all times with testing. There's tons of assessment that's happening, so we've got to make sure that networks are available, and also for security reasons. We manage the voice over IP systems, Active Directory user storage management, Google Workspace. Back probably about 2017 when I started, we started phasing over into Google Workspace. I really made the trend easy when we rolled over into the pandemic. Teachers and students and admin being on the same platform. Information security best practices, really doing due diligence. Mr. Lorenz in the business office has been supporting since I've been here. When it comes to cyber, really making sure that we're doing the right thing for our staff and students, especially at the heightened time we have within the day. Server infrastructure support, classroom technology support, and that's huge. How many classrooms we have, all this technology is getting used right. With the support of the board last year, we were able to roll out an ed tech specialist and help provide training to staff members and get these products that we're using when it comes to educational software. Are they being used correctly? New technology integrations, we're in the process always of looking at new tech, how can we implement and improve our district from a business standpoint, educational standpoint. Both have to sync harmoniously and really work together. And then our student, Genesis student information system, really making sure we have all the required state information and student demographic information that's required by the state. Some of that state reporting responsibilities, we have our student data management, student demographic, parent forms, gradebook management, workflow set up by the DOE mandated changes, online registration, student resource, class roster integrations, all those resources that we purchase come from our student information system, so there's not manual processing being done. A lot of that's automated now in the back end that we integrate into these systems. NJ Smart, all the required state reporting like SID management, state submission, state testing, end of year snapshot, course roster submission. The list can go on, and including all that, but the data stuff is your state testing data setup. Now you have NJSLA to start strong, access testing, NJDPA, which just was done 2 weeks ago or last 2 weeks, DLM testing, device configuration for those devices for testing, making sure our network's optimized, and the monitoring of the network while those testing stuff is going on. So what our technology department looks like now, we have a technology coordinator, we have 2 technology specialists, and 2 technology computer technicians. We're looking to kind of revise some of those job titles. We're looking to actually add a data communications specialist to assist with some of the state data that's required, because they're throwing new reports at us all the time. To be able to manage our central registration, to make sure that we have the correct information coming in from our schools and reported to the state, to make sure all these reports are reported to the board. Device server network specialist, we're looking to change some of our existing job titles to kind of fit what their role is now. Some of these job titles have been revised in 10 years or so, so we're looking to really just look at the responsibilities and making sure it aligns with what they're doing. And the data assistant for help desk and parent portal. Last year we rolled out the parent portal to K-12. It was familiar with high school. With the pandemic, we thought for communication aspects, it was important to have that district-wide where report cards electronic, all forms electronic, and we've been pretty good at aggregating a lot of that data online now. This is kind of what our proposed technology department alignment would look like with those job titles. So we have the superintendent and technology coordinator, support staff for technology, device server network specialists, technicians, and then the data assistant and communication specialist will report back to myself and the superintendent to make sure that the streamlined and communications and data is being worked properly. We're also in the process of investigating a shared service agreement with Lakehurst, seeing how the district can best support their technology needs. It's a small building, a couple hundred students and some staff members. We're looking to make sure that the seamless process from them coming to elementary school to our school. We're using a lot of the same tech and stuff, so how can we integrate and really make a harmonious system for them and then support their needs, because I know they're in some need over there. I'd like to be able to assist them in the matter.
Should we be able to do that with your current staffing, or we need to hire additional people?
I think we were able to hire the data specialist that we're talking about from Postal Agenda tonight. I think with some of this responsibility, also we'll be able to manage time and assist them in their matter. And we're talking to school size of Whiting, so I can't imagine there's the first couple months might be an integration processing, evaluating. And that's going to be part of the talks we're talking. The first phase evaluation. We're looking at their systems. What needs to be done, because I think there hasn't been someone there in like 2 years outside of consulting. So we really need to evaluate this first part of the process, and we can evaluate time on that.
Will we be charging them by the hour, or just be a?
That's something we haven't discussed yet. Any questions? Thank you for all your support through the years. You guys do a great job.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Chris, we appreciate it. All right, so moving on to my report. So first, welcome. This is our first mask optional meeting. It actually felt weird walking in here today without a mask on. So thank you for coming. We appreciate it. Thank you, Mr. Rauscher, for that presentation and kind of just taking us through the past decade of where we were with technology, where we are now, and sort of where we need to go in the future. So thank you for that. My next community meeting, Java with John, is on April 7th at Ridgeway. Everyone is welcome. You do not have to be a Ridgeway parent to attend. So come out, ask questions, get feedback. It's very informal. We have cookies and coffee, and 7, I think we have it as 6 p.m. at Ridgeway. We are in need of substitutes. I'm happy to report that we have more substitutes working today than we had in the past 2 years here. So that's a huge gain for us and a huge win. We're always in need. It's $120 a day if you're interested. If you're an education major, you only need 30 credits, if not 60 credits, and we can get you all set up to be a substitute. We're also looking for substitute nurses. That's $200 a day. And then bus drivers, $18 an hour. And we also have some full-time positions with benefits available. So if you know anyone for any of those positions, please send them our way. Our board policies are now online. You can go right to the homepage. Thank you, Ms. Berzaitis, for putting it right up there so that way you can access it. For this year, we have it so all the board policies are on there. We're in the process of working through the regulations and updating those. So for the 22-23 school year, we'll also have the regulations on there as well. We have a couple of retirees on our agenda for this evening. I know one of them is here. So Mr. Steve Ninavaji with 22 years of dedicated service. Thank you. We also have Linda Guerreri with 34.5 years of dedicated service. Mr. Bill Shell, 15 years of service. And Carol DeLucia, 12.5 years of service. A huge thank you to our PTA for funding all those mini grants. Congratulations to the teachers and staff for being recipients. And thank you to the PTA for just supporting our schools. I know it's been challenging, so anything that we can do to help you get the word out for any of your events, help you, gather additional members, anything that I can do to help, please, and the administration, I'm more happy to help you. Also, if you could save me 3 of those tickets, I'll be attending. So I just wanted to give an update on our collaboration efforts with the military base. So April is the month of the military child. We've been invited to attend on the McGuire side on April 1st to attend their kickoff event. So we're very excited. We have some students attending, myself, Mr. Adams, and Lieutenant Commander over at the high school will be coming. Mrs. Petrosian, I actually met with a representative. We're looking to expand the services and programs that they offer. There's one in particular that we're very interested in, and it would service our 5th grade for next year. It's called Starbase. And they would actually have students go over to the base and work through STEM-related activities. They would go 5 Fridays for a total of 25 hours that they would go through the STEM series. So we're excited about that. And then also we have a summer STEM program that we're looking to see if we can implement, and that would be for our middle school students, and that would be over the summer. And these are free programs that we have available to our students. So Ms. Petrosa and I have been working very hard to really have that military connection and bring opportunities to the district. Our online application.
One question, Ben. I know it's still early yet, but President Biden announced he's bringing over 100,000 refugees from Ukraine, and I'm sure that the military bases and for coming over. I know you look at that, but he did announce that the 100,000 refugees are coming over to the United States from Poland, I believe, and Lakehurst seems to be a popular landing spot.
We will be ready if they need a place to be. Our online application and recruitment platform, we're in the works of doing that. We're working with Mr. Rauscher and working through the administrative services that will help us with recruiting teachers and recruiting staff. There's an online platform, and it actually streamlines all of our applications, so no more paper applications coming into the district. So that should be up and running sometime today. Our dual enrollment and academies update. So I do have the high school administration staff coming to our April meeting to give the board an update. Until then, we're actually out recruiting at the middle school. We're working with 8th graders. There's our course brochure that's out. We have lots of new courses and offerings for our students. We have the addition of new academies that we're really excited to roll out. We're fine-tuning those and working through that. But you can expect at the April Board of Ed meeting that you'll hear more about these academies and what we're going to be offering for our students at the high school beginning next year.
Going to both groups of eighth graders or just one? And just one Lakers as well?
Yes, we're going to Lakers. And we also sent out surveys to students, so we were able to gauge their interest in some of the courses that we're offering. We have 2 new policies on our agenda. So we have 2 new policies on the agenda this evening that we reviewed. The first is a transgender policy, and the second is independent educational evaluation. We have some new jobs and job descriptions that will be on the agenda. And I just wanted to thank all the teachers and staff that reached out to me since the last Board of Education meeting. I know that we talked a little bit about GEOs. We talked a little bit about, that was something that we spent a significant amount of money. And I just want to thank the teachers that opened up their classrooms for me to come in and really see what's happening. I'm happy to report, and I'm going to be sharing with you, there was a video that the Ridgeway staff put together. So you could see GEOs in action. And I have to say, it was one of the first times that I got to see it in the classrooms. And when I say classroom, this one teacher was actually doing it in the hallway. And the students were completely engaged and captivated in the lesson. And it's a wonderful addition to our literacy block. So I just wanted to formally thank the teachers and staff that reached out to either have conversations or welcome me into their classrooms for me to see it in action. I'm going to be sharing a video out with the board. It's about 15 minutes, but it's 15 minutes well spent, and it was well done by the Ridgeway staff. So to Nikki and Carrie and all the staff at Ridgeway, thank you so much for sending that. It definitely opened my eyes up to what GEOs is, and really, what a critical resource it is in our K-2 classrooms. So thank you for that. And as always, if you have any questions, if you need me, I have an open door policy. I'm available, phone, email, text, come on by. I'm always available. So thank you.
When will we be getting that video? This week or next week?
I have it. I can email it right now if you're ready.
Don't worry.
Just a couple of things. So a couple of things on the agenda tonight. The 22-23 budget is on the agenda for approval. This is not final approval. This is just for approval to send to the county office so that the budget can be reviewed. Changes can be made to this between now and our public hearing, which it looks like we're going to move to April 27th. Our regular April board meeting and our budget public hearing will be April 27th. I'll just go into a couple quick things. I won't get into a ton of detail tonight because we won't do that at the public hearing. The budget that was submitted to us was roughly $1 million over our statutory cap when we first received it. So we had $1 million in cut. We were able to do this a couple different ways. We were able to do some of this on the revenue side and some of it on the expense side. So all said and done, we cut about $550,000 out of the budget on the expense side and adjusted some revenue, $450,000 on the revenue side, primarily due to the fact that the state is now paying extraordinary aid at 90%. We were typically budgeting that around 50 or 60%. So we had some room there to kind of increase that revenue projection, which helped us this year. On the expense side, some of the things we did were we looked at some things that were being asked for next year. We're going to pull some of those things into the current budget to try to do that. Some of them were just red line deductions. You don't need this much based on trends. So we were looking at trends. We went back a couple of years, looked at different areas of the budget where there could be potential savings, made adjustments based on that. So in the end, we ultimately got to our statutory cap. Just some quick details. Our entire operating budget is only increasing by 0.79%. Our total budget is only increasing by 1.16%. A large part of this is because we did have significantly more surplus last year, and that was due to those COVID years where there were certain things we weren't spending money on, more money rolled into surplus, but then we were able to use that money for projects, for technology, and for facilities upgrades. So that money is not in this budget. Federal aid is expected to decrease a little bit, so we're anticipating a 15% decrease. That's what we budget at. If we get more, that just helps us out. Part of our budget includes our Senate-to-Sea relationship with Lakehurst. So that is a budgeted revenue for us. We are anticipating a few more kids this year from Lakehurst. They have a very large ninth grade class coming in. So that revenue item went up a little bit. We also provide resource services for those students. So we are charging them $240,000 for that service. And basically how we come up with that is our auditors who were just here. One of the things that they take a look at is they take a look at all the resource services that we do in the district. They take all the hours, throughout the district, including Lakehurst. And basically, we take, so it just becomes a percentage of our total cost. We estimate that to be about $240,000, and that's the portion that we bill to Lakehurst that they pay as part of their tuition. The other piece that we have is they do send some kids to vocational school. So those kids that come to us, that we send to vocational school, they also pay for that as well. So without getting into a ton of detail on the expense side, just so you're aware, roughly 82% of our budget is kind of comprised of 5 categories. It's salaries, it's health benefits, it's special education, it's liability insurance, and it's this pension payment that we have to make now. So when you consider, developing a budget for any school year, right off the bat, you have about 18% of the budget to work with. The other 82% is pretty much, it's fixed. There's not much you can do about that. You can make adjustments here and there to kind of tweak salaries or tweak health benefits through collective bargaining and things like that. But you need liability insurance. And one of the things that's going to be a huge cost driver this year is we just came off 2 years of remote learning, hybrid schedules. So staff, we didn't have as many staff in the buildings, we didn't have as many kids in the building, we weren't transporting for a while. So premiums along those years and claims along those years were a lot less. Now what we're seeing is now that staff are back in buildings, students are back in buildings, there's more workers' comp claims, there's more accidents, there's more, automotive accidents, there's, those types of things. So we're starting to see a rise in premiums. So we're looking at potentially $1 million in liability insurance this year between workers' compensation and all the other insurances that we need to have. So there are some cost drivers in this budget, but it is that kind. I think everything that's in place will meet the goals and the needs that we have next year. Like I said, if anything happens between now and next month, when we present the budget to the board for final approval, we do have the opportunity to make those changes. But for tonight, I'm asking the board to approve the tentative budget so that the county can review it. I'm scheduled to meet with them next week. So that's the long and short of the budget. Another thing on the agenda tonight is we do have the agreement with the MTEA and the Supportive Education Association. We met and negotiated over the past couple of months. And we have agreed, the association has voted on the memorandum of agreement. Of those that voted, they approved the MOA, the memorandum of agreement, by 92%. So we're excited to present that to the board tonight for approval. It's a 5-year contract, which is fantastic. Not that I don't want to do it all the time, but I want to thank the association for being flexible with us and coming in and we worked pretty quickly through this time, and we had some good conversation and we had some good discussion on things that are going on now, things that could be coming up, things down the road. So I am happy that we were able to get something done and in time so that the teachers this year know that they have a contract next year, and that's one less thing that we all have to worry about. So thank you, Dan, in the back there, and thank you, MTEA. That's on the agenda tonight as well. And then the last thing, and I think I reported on this last week, I was a little nervous because I hadn't heard from the state on our HVAC project that we were doing at Regional Day School. We actually did get to meet today. We met down at Regional Day School today. They are going to replace all the HVAC equipment down at the Regional Day School. They've allocated about $3.5 million for us for that project. So we took them around the district today, around the regional day, and we walked through all the rooms, and kind of showed them what we were looking at, and some of the things we were looking to do. Now, this is gonna take a little bit longer. My guess is we probably will not be able to start this work until not this spring of 23. That's based on the timeline they gave us. You know, they have a little bit more red tape to go through at the state level, but we know the work is coming. So we're looking forward to that. It's definitely needed. We have been kind of band-aiding our way through the summers down there, and in some cases, the winters, depending on where you're at. So we just got to get through one more year, and they'll be coming in, you know, in spring of 23, summer of 23 to overhaul the HVAC. That's the report.
Thank you. Thank you. So I got excited about the PTA auction ticket, so I completely forgot to welcome our student representative, Adrian Viscardi. So Adrian will be with us this month, and then she'll also be with us in June, I believe. And then we'll be rotating through the other student government, the association, the executive team, and we'll do the same for next school year as well. So thank you to those advisors for helping us determine which students would come and give everyone that's an officer the opportunity to be here. Adrian, and for future student reps, you'll be able to give a report, ask questions. You're just a non-voting rep to our Board of Education. So thank you for your time and for your service.
Okay, would you like to give your report now?
Yeah, sure.
Perfect, say what?
I think it's on. Oh, okay. Okay, so first of all, I would just like to say thank you for, allowing this opportunity. I know that the state, enacted it recently. And I've been in SGA, student government, since my freshman year of high school. And it's been great to see like a huge change, in, how we do everything. And unfortunately I am graduating in 3 months. So, this is like kind of a good way to leave my mark, before I leave. But I'm very grateful to be here, and I'm just going to give like a rundown of what we have going on at the high school. As we all know, we're back to mask optional in the building, which has been great. We get to see everyone's faces now, and that also means for student government, things can kind of resume to normal, and that means a lot more in-person events. And even next Friday, we're having our first normal pep rally. Maybe since my sophomore year, so it's been 2 years since we've had any kind of normalcy. And we're actually meeting tomorrow after school to arrange all of that and get things approved. So we're really looking forward to that. I know that the students, we all really miss that normalcy. So it feels great to take one more step towards going back to normal. And just to run down from each of the classes, so the senior class, we just recently had on March 15th our 100 Nights dinner. And for those of you who aren't familiar with the 100 Nights dinner, we had a bunch of, so we had hypnotists, we had food that was catered by Linda's Pizza over on 37, and we had a bunch of generous Manchester community members that donated various gifts, baskets that were raffled off, and it was a great way to mark 100 nights to graduation, which is kind of bittersweet, but time flies by. And we've also been working on prom, and we've had prom committee meetings, and I've been working with the senior class advisors, Ms. Bilodeau and Ms. Connors, to kind of head the prom committee to get that all under wraps, and prom is May 20th, so it's gonna come before we know it. The junior class, they've had a lot of things going on. They're trying to make up for lost time. And they just recently finished their tulip and flower sale. They did really well with that. They're currently working on a Gertrude Hawk fundraiser, which will kind of lead them into Easter, and will bring in some great money that they can use for their junior prom and for their senior prom next year. They also just recently had a Chipotle fundraiser, and they did pretty well with that. And I believe on Monday they are having their first of 2 Tacoholics fundraisers. So definitely thought back to those. They are also working on class t-shirt sales, to kind of bring in a lot more money. Then they're also working on their prom, which is May 13th, and working on a prom committee. And the sophomore class, they are actually So 2 years ago, my class had this idea to do student and teacher basketball game, and unfortunately, the week it was supposed to happen, the pandemic hit, and as we know, everything went virtual, and it was just a bummer. But luckily, the sophomores have actually worked to pick that back up, and they're doing a student versus teacher volleyball game, and they sent out interest forms, and they're getting teams together, and just a lot of things developed, and it's great to see how excited people are. They actually had to cut it off to a certain number of teams because of the participation. So I think everyone's looking forward to normalcy and just being back to how things were. The freshmen are working on T-shirt sales for their class, which is great, to kind of integrate these freshmen into the atmosphere of high school. And I believe that they're also working on some additional fundraisers too. And then so next week, we actually have our Spirit Week. And as I mentioned, we normally end our Spirit Weeks with a pep rally to commemorate, whatever season of sports are occurring. So Monday, we have our theme as being Twin Day. So you would, dress similarly to a friend of yours. Tuesday is Neon Day, so dress in bright neon colors. Wednesday is Generation Day, so you can dress like your younger self or your older self. Thursday is a Throwback Thursday, so you can kind of, it's like, 2000s, 1980s, 1990s, whatever you want to do.
2000 is throwback.
And our Friday theme is blue and gold, and we always do that to, bring together our school colors. And then next Friday is our pep rally. So I'm really looking forward to my last Spirit Week. And we're really kind of going out with a bang. And so I'm hoping that this will bring about a lot of school morale and, help to bring that back. So I'm excited. Thank you.
A great start. You're gonna make it tough over next month. All right, any other board members have a report? Please keep them short.
Welcome, Adrian. It's nice to see you. You did a great job.
Thank you.
Thank you to the PTA for all of your support and all the grants that you issued. That was very generous and nice of you. I was able to go to schools for Read Across America Day, which is great. I thank all the elementary teachers for inviting us in, but I chose MTES because that's where 2 of my 3 attend school. So I was happy to report that my 5th grader was as happy as my kindergartner to see me. So it worked out well. I attended the kindergarten orientation at Ridgeway for half of the time. It was nice to see the parents coming in person, to learn about what next year will have in store for their babies. In February, I attended the CPAG meeting. It was virtual. In March, they just had a closed meeting to go over the IEP process. I was not part of that, as I'm just the board rep. April 6th, they will be having another virtual meeting, Parent Academy, caregiver support. May 2nd, there's a meeting going over the IEP process, what you can expect from the beginning of the process, timeframes, and who will attend the meetings. Updates, Bridget, our new special ed supervisor, is going out to the different schools to meet some of our district students. As far as staffing, there are several new positions for special ed, DCBA in district, and a couple of others. And then there was Meredith's report. There was a parent survey that was issued, and they were happy because they had 60 responses. Some of the other things that people wanted to talk about or bring up was family loss groups and supports. Programs are being created, transitioning from school to school. So there's talk of district transitioning meetings and creating bigger transitioning programs. Also for adult living for our disabled population. And I'm the Board of Ed representative for the CPAG, and so I just wanted to relate to you that a big concern that has come from a couple of different members of the community is the VB program, which some people are just concerned about how it's going to work, and they want more of an idea or vision of, how the program will be rolled out before they make decisions about bringing children back into district. So if maybe we can communicate some more information to them. Thank you.
Anyone else?
Real quick, very nice to see. I'm trying to hold back the tears because she if you know anything about Adrian, when she was little, she had such a fear of like talking in public, and that was cling to me. So seeing her do this was amazing. And I can't thank the Manchester schools enough for helping and encouraging the growth and the love of learning that my child has had. Thank you so much. You know, I really appreciate it. Amy, you did a great job.
Bravo.
Yeah, Dad's there too. Grandma's there, aunt, sister. I attended the kinder prep a few weeks ago. Macy's bring out the families, bring the kiddos. They were having a good time as well. Nice job to the staff presenting and the administration. It was a really good turnout. We also attended, many of the members attended the Excellence in Education dinner, the MTA. They did a great job, Mr. Staples. It was wonderful to see the staff and see them get recognized. We appreciate you, and we appreciate everything that all of you do for our children each and every day. And it was great. It like hit the shivers down my spine when I was there. It was fantastic. Great job. You must be proud of your son too.
I'll have to say.
Okay. On the other side of things, I wear a hat as the president of Ocean County School Board Association. I just wanted to share that Mr. Payton and I will be attending a meeting for presidents and vice presidents next week, the 30th, correct? It's virtual, so I don't know, Mr. Payton, you may or may not attend. We'll see what happens.
Actually, I said the meeting, I said done virtual.
No, and I'm with you, definitely, totally agree with you on that. We also have the 8th grade dialogue coming up. Those of you who are not familiar with the 8th grade dialogue, every school in Ocean County and throughout the state, an 8th grader is selected by the principal. And that child, right, where that's virtual as well. Mr. Pinney from New Jersey School Board Association is working to put this video together like he did last year. The dialogue is interesting. It's pretty fascinating because the kids are there talking about current topics that they're faced with now. And, you know, a lot of pandemic questions for last year, a lot about virtual learning. But we're working on getting those kiddos on the video and from Ocean County, around Ocean County. So that should be done within the next couple of months. And in our main meeting, we'll be presenting that. And that's it. That's my report. Thank you.
Anyone else?
I was just going to make one more comment. Mr. Bernardo, you had mentioned a lot about working with the base on different STEM programs. And I even noticed a lot of the mini grants that the PTA given were for STEM related things. And I just wanted to say that I really appreciate that. And even at the high school, I've been working alongside Miss Kelly. She's a computer science teacher. She also teaches math. And we've created a Women in STEM club to kind of encourage, you know, young girls to explore different career fields in STEM. And we actually are having our next meeting, our second meeting next week. And we've been having different speakers come in. I believe we had, at our last meeting, we had Miss Claus. She actually replaced Mr. Golick, who retired, and she spoke a little bit about her career path. And then we even had Commander Holzer that came in and spoke, although he's not a female. It was great to just get a different perspectives and to open up the doors, the many doors in the STEM field. So I thought that was amazing that you're starting so young with these children too. And I want to pursue a career in the STEM field too. So I think it's amazing to kind of open their eyes up to all this stuff in science. So I thought that was amazing. So I just wanted to applaud you.
Are you guys going with the Girls Who Code? There's a club, there's an organization stating that whole thing.
Yeah, well, Miss Kelly, I know there's a lot of she'll post links to different activities that go on and stuff like that. So I think
Girls Who Code is the hope.
Yeah.
Organization set up in the state of New Jersey. To
Yeah.
encourage females to come more into the STEM. Where they do a fantastic job.
Yeah, it's been really good. So
Actually, a lot of schools, you start to see more females come in STEM classes than males, which is forward.
yeah, my AP computer science class, I think Miss Kelly won an award. It was presented a few meetings ago. Yeah, about the greater female. Yeah, so that's great. It's it's really good to see the doors open.
Mr. Vernon, I'd like to thank you about the military connection too. We've got one of our most incredible resources in our back here, the military. My husband's retired, your wife's retired, Mr. Zernak. It's fantastic to have that right in our back, the most incredible resource. So that's amazing. Thank you. Thank you to administration too for doing that, teachers working together.
Thank you. All right, open up public participation now. Any agenda items only? Yes.
feel like I need to introduce myself. I'm Heather Kramer. I've never had to do that at a board meeting before. So, one question I did have about the military base thing for you, and then I'll address my questions on the agenda. You said the fifth graders. Is that going to be like standard for all fifth graders? Is it a club? Is it, do they need to qualify? What is the criteria for the students to attend that?
Sure. So as of right now, it's going to be every fifth grader, including students in a self-contained setting. They actually, the connection that we made with the base, they said that they would send representatives out to work in classrooms for students that can't transport. So it's going to be an inclusive program for anyone. So our current fourth grade rising to fifth grade next year would be able to participate.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
On the agenda with the, some of the approvals, number 11,
Which section are you looking at?
I'm looking at C, personnel,
Personnel C, number 11.
C, personnel,
C, personnel.
and then number 11, the reading specialist, you have listed down that it's for the school district. Is this an overall, like, growing type of position, or will this person be at a specific school?
So right now, it's going to be a district-wide position is the way that we have it. They're going to be providing instruction. We've identified students that are rising at Whiting that could use services. So they're going to be doing some lessons at Whiting, and then they'll rotate to the other elementary schools as well.
Number 12, kind of the same question. You have this person listed as a teacher for the district. What capacity is that for?
Sure. So we're really excited about this. We have a Wilson certified teacher that we are hiring. She has her level 1 certification. Her homeschool will be at MTES for this year. And then over the summer, I'll be working with Mrs. Antonucci. And then also we have a cohort of teachers that are going to be going through the Wilson level 1 certification. So she will work with those teachers and work as the liaison between their certified trainer. And then from there, we will be able to identify where those certified teachers, where they would provide the instruction.
Do you want to explain what a Wilson certified teacher is? For parents who'd like to hear what that means.
Sure. So Wilson certification is an Norton Gillingham program. It's a multisensory reading program. Our level 1, it's steps 1 through 6. So typically we begin that instruction in 2nd grade, and it could go all the way up to students in high school, depending on their level of entry into the program. It's systematic, it's explicit, it's hands-on. It complements some of the other multisensory reading programs we have in place. You may be familiar at the K-2 level, we have Foundations. We also have beginning in 4th grade, our Just Words program, and we have one teacher that is Norton Gillingham certified as well. So this just complements this to be able to have the level 1 certification. And this teacher that we're hiring has expressed interest in becoming level 2 certified, which would extend our program from step 7 all the way to 12.
Okay, so from what I'm understanding, then the reading specialist isn't the Wilson certified teacher. So that's like gonna maybe place students in certain kind of programs that's going to determine that, right? That level?
Sure. So a reading specialist by code has an additional certification. So just like we have elementary school teachers, this particular candidate has a K-6 certification. She has a Students with Disability certification. And then in addition to that, she has a reading specialist certificate. That allows for her to assess students with a multitude of assessments and really work hand in hand with our basic skills teachers to be able to develop programs and personalized learning opportunities for students who need remediation in reading. You're welcome.
Number 13, the behavioral analysis for the school district. So I understand that, but how will she have access to the kids? Will she be coming into the IEP meetings? Is she going to evaluate all existing kids that fall into that program?
Sure. So this position right now, the way that we have it designed, is going to be a 60%, 40% position, which means that 60% of the salary and time will be spent at regional day school. And then 40% is going to be from the general budget. So it would support students preschool all the way to 12th grade. And really by design, a BCBA, while they do go into classrooms and they do perform something as similar as like an FBA, they'd be able to do a functioning behavior assessment as needed. They really work closely with our registered behavior technicians. So we have our paraprofessionals that are going through the RBT. You may be familiar with that. They're going to be going through, and really the purpose of an RBT is to be able to implement the plan that was created by BCBA, and then using data to track the implementation, the effectiveness, and if anything needs to be reevaluated, changed, revised, or modified to meet the students' behavioral needs. And this complements really nicely to what Mrs. Antonucci is trying to do. And we're trying to identify students that are in and out of district placement, similar to what Mrs. Mount was talking about. Our the behavioral classroom is actually, we changed the name of that now to the state level. The classification is emotionally regulated. Go ahead, Bridget, I'm sorry.
Emotional regulation.
Thank you. ERI. So I knew the acronym. And really the idea behind that is that we would be able to bring out-of-district students into these programs. So that way we can have the behavior supports available if they need that. And we're looking to do that at every level, at elementary, middle school, and high school, because we do have students that meet the criteria for those programs. And really, it's a best practice for them to be able to have these programs with their neighborhood peers.
I interrupt, sorry. So I think the other concern that came my way from the CPAC too, parents are just worried, we're not bringing every kid back to district. It's
No.
a slow and steady pace. And I think that's where some of the miscommunication is. Some parents are fearful, you know, some kids need to stay in their out of district, but.
Yeah, I think, you know, go ahead, Bridget, do you want to jump in?
Yeah, sure. So currently we have three right now that we're looking at for elementary level, that we're looking to bring back. And it's going to be at a tiered rate. So we're going to look to see how they do. First, we're going to do the fact that we're going to have a teacher for that comes from a larger BCBA going to do observations in their academic that they are currently in. I'm going to have an opportunity and then we're going to look to do a scattered park day where they are, and then come to us so we can really look to build, make sure that the classroom is ready. We're going to make sure that the incentives are in place that are individualized for the students. And then we look to transition them to us for a school year program, and then closing in September.
And a lot of these conversations, just, you know, we don't tell parents that they're coming back. These are collaborative. So when we have an IEP meeting or if we're doing observations, the communication happens with the parents, and that way they know that we're going out to observe. And a lot of times what happens is the conversation happens in an IEP meeting that the parents want the program. We would never tell parents that they have to bring their child back simply because we have the program. It's a matter of matching their needs to a program.
Thank you. And then my last question is on number 19. We've been 12-month secretaries from the Special Services Department out of the board office and into their appropriate school. I was just curious really as to why that is going to happen, like what the benefit of that would be. And I can see some, I just would like to hear it.
Sure.
And then also, is that a permanent move?
Sure.
Or are you like you're doing the board office?
Right. That's a great question. So, and I'm glad that we're able to address this. So basically the long and the short of it is to improve efficiency. As you know, with special education, timeline is a huge part of that, being able to meet the deadlines. And what was happening was there's paperwork that comes from a building level. So our child study team works in buildings. For the most part, they all have their own building to work in. We have 3 child study team members that go to Whiting Elementary School to support the students with IEPs there. And what happens is the reports and the files were being held, there were 2 separate files that we were holding for students. And it really is a better practice to be able to have one file for students that have all the information in there. And the likelihood of items being lost in transitioning from school to school is a lot higher when the secretaries are not working side by side with their child studies. So essentially, we're looking to improve consistency, the efficiency of the program, meet deadlines, and be able to support the child study team, which we did survey the child study team, and that was a request that came out of that for them to have their secretarial support available to them when they're working in the buildings. And the second part of that is it permanent? Yes.
So as a parent who deals in this world, if I need to submit a letter, a written request, which usually is mailed to the board office, and I would presume that a secretary would have been stamped it, that it was received. What's the process for us so the parents don't have a lag? Like you still send to the board office?
Still sent to the board office. Yep. We do have Mrs. Antonucci's administrative assistant works there. These are the child study team secretaries. And I have to tell you that if you look at other school districts, most child study teams have their secretary with them, even if they do work at multiple work sites. It's a very uncommon practice for them to have secretaries that support individuals at a central location.
Other than that, if the students already classified, you can feel free to send those notices to your case manager in the school. For new referrals to the.
Okay, that seems very different than what we've always been told as far as we needed to mail it to the board office, any request, we need an IEP. We could copy our case managers, but we needed to address our request to the board office. So you're saying
I would say.
a letter to our case manager?
More, we could talk about it because there's different answers for different scenarios. But I would say if the student's already classified and you want to request to say for an IEP meeting or revision, you can absolutely reach out to your case manager.
And that can happen via email too, to reach out to the case manager too.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
I just want to, all the time.
I didn't want everybody to
Officially,
you know, you don't have to officially send a letter. We're available via email and by phone too if there's just questions.
All right, anyone else have any questions on the agenda? Yeah.
I have a question on the transgender policy.
Yes.
So, I'm Rory Wells, I live in Holly Oaks here, I have a daughter who came through the Manchester school system. So, has the policy already been voted on and adopted?
It has not been.
It has not, okay. So there's 2 points that I'd like to just voice my opposition to. On page 7, one references the activities, allowing those who participate in the sport based on their gender identity as opposed to their biological gender. Unfortunately, particularly with it being Women's History Month, not necessarily as a diss to any student who is transgender or identifies in a particular way. I think it's a negative impact on women. I do have a daughter. She graduated, she's at UConn now, but and obviously this is a major conversation that's not just happening here in Manchester, but that's happening throughout the state and throughout the nation. But I just wanted on the record that I don't think it's appropriate. I would hope that ultimately, as you look at this policy, you would not allow those that biologically are opposite to be in the opposites and go both ways. So I would ask the board to really consider that particular portion of the policy. The second part that I want to draw your attention to is the restroom facilities, where it allows those to use the restroom facility based on their gender identity as opposed to their biological gender. And I recognize these are difficult situations, but fortunately there have been attacks on students, particularly in Virginia and other states. I hope we haven't had any situations here that I've heard of, at least in Manchester or quite frankly in New Jersey. But I think when you codify something, I'm also an attorney. I hope the board would look at the legal liability of codifying this bathroom policy. I don't know what the answer is. Perhaps there could be a gender neutral bathroom or whatever the case may be. This one, I'm not necessarily sure if it should be removed or not. If you have some concerns, someone using a bathroom based on their gender identity as opposed to their biological genders. But specifically because there have been incidences where there have been attacks on other students in other states. So I pray that nothing like that happens here in New Jersey. I don't want to monopolize some time. Particularly the activities, I just wanted to rise and put it on the record that I'm against that. And then briefly, I know, Mr. Chairman, you had mentioned initially that the curriculum, we were moving ahead in your opening remarks, that we were ahead of the game, so to speak. My final question would be for the LGBTQ curriculum, is that directed also at elementary school children? Is there an opt-out provision? Thank you for taking my questions.
Sure. So I guess I'll start backwards. So I just want to be clear, the LGBTQ curriculum, that begins at the middle school level. There's inclusivity standards that are geared towards specifically being able to have an inclusive environment beginning in kindergarten. So there's some crossover and some misconceptions on inclusivity, which was the bill 84454 and the LGBTQ curriculum. Basically, what we're doing to provide a space for inclusivity for all students is being able to, teach students that, for instance, it's not just about sexual orientation or being transgender. It's that we don't prejudge students simply because they have a different color skin, or they live in a small house, or they have two dads, or they only have one mom. That it's basically everyone is treated with respect and dignity, and that's the spirit of that law. The LGBTQ curriculum that begins in middle school, basically we're looking to infuse different areas and different standards across the curriculum. And the other misconception is that this only lives in health and PE. And it's not. It's across the board, just being able to provide opportunities for students to engage in experiences and dialogue beginning in middle school that represent the world at large. Because at large, we do have families that look very different. We have people that look very different. And even just looking around Manchester, it's a very diverse community. There are some communities that aren't as diverse, and it's just being able to provide our students with that experience, so that way they're prepared and ready to engage with people beyond this community. In terms of the transgender policy, I just wanted to address the bathrooms. I've met with every principal, and we've identified across actually beginning in kindergarten, so all of our elementary schools, the middle school, and the high school, gender-neutral bathrooms that would be available. Currently, a lot of these practices are in place already. We're actually behind. This policy was mandated back in January of 2019, and it was never presented on a board agenda for approval. So now here we are in March of 2022, and we're actually approving a policy that should have been in place already. And we have practices happening within our schools that aren't supported by board policy. So the bathrooms are completely taken care of, and we have gender-neutral bathrooms. At the elementary level, we have bathrooms in most of our classrooms. The ones that don't, we have an alternative space for students that are transitioning, or if they just don't feel comfortable going into a bathroom, with multiple stalls and multiple peers in there. In terms of the sports, I know that Mr. Lister is back there. I don't know if you wanted to jump in a little bit about what's happening at the sports level.
Well, we would be obligated as members of the NJSAA to follow their regulations. And they support transgender participation where the student identifies. We haven't had a situation like that in our school. We've always had a number of kids transitioning and recognizing, who they want to be recognized as. They haven't asked to participate. So we've sort of avoided that issue. I mean, I understand as a father of 3 girls and a brother of 5 sisters, the concerns. But I think we're obligated to follow the regulation, and we put ourselves as a district at risk if we try and combat that.
I can just follow up. Sure. So in order to say that the town wanted to avoid that, what it sounds like what would necessarily be needed, state legislative law, something. Even with that, the school district following those national sports standards would still have to abide by that? I don't know. If you don't know that, that's fine. I just know that as a member of the NJSAA, the school that agrees to their, regulations, we would be subject to follow those. So I don't know if Mr. Monahan would feel that we would have the option to challenge that, or if the board would want to try and do that, but
I think the answer to that question is the NJSAA that's required. And if you don't meet their requirements, you don't compete.
You're not a member of the
That's the way it is. So
that's where we put ourselves at risk.
you may not be able to compete.
So it would have to come from a legislative level to have, some sort of leeway on our part to be able to decide whether there were pieces of it. But again, as an attorney, you would appreciate that once you open up one piece of it, then everything is subject to additional interpretation. So as Mr. Lister said, we would follow the regulations prescribed for us to participate under those guidelines.
And just to add further, if you look at the policy, at the end of the title, it says transgender students, there's an M in parentheses. That means it's mandated by the state. We cannot say we're going to this part, we're not going to that. It's mandated by the state, we have to, we should have adopted years ago, but we have to adopt it.
I would think that needed, but we're not gonna solve the problem here today, but, so it sounds like even if the state legislature and the governor signed a law doing that, because we participate in that sporting association, and we abide by their association rules, change have to come from them, from both, essentially, the state as well as the sporting association, which we affiliate ourselves with. I mean, that's what it sounds like.
Yeah, there's not federal laws to proceed. You know how laws should proceed. If it's a federal law, that was superseded in the state.
Thank you for your pitch. Thank you for your appointment, sir, and I appreciate this room. It's my first time.
And there was one about the opt-out. The opt-out that's available in policy is for the health and PE curriculum. And that would be specific if there were pieces of it that you did not want your child to be a part of. You would reach out to the building principal and then they would walk you through the opt-out procedures. And it can be specific to a portion of the curriculum, if it's something that you oppose, or a piece of it, a lot of within the health and PE curriculum is the sexual education standards.
I think, sir, but the reason why they would put it as widespread throughout all of the curriculum as opposed to just health, because parents only have the option to opt out to just health. But if we put it across all of the curriculums, that negates the parent's ability to opt out. So what you're saying is it's not just in the health curriculum.
It is not.
There is no opt-out provision, even though it is dealing with sexual gender issues. So I don't know, would it be addressed in math or science or other classes?
No, like, so for instance, there may be a math word problem where instead of saying a mom and a dad are going to the grocery store, it might say two moms are going to the grocery store. Now, our math program does not have those specific word problems, but there are certainly text and mentor texts that we're using that provide an opportunity for our children to see that a family is different than just a mom and a dad, or that, there are occasions where people, our students live with their grandparents, and that's okay. Basically the spirit behind it is basically just being able to provide an inclusive and diverse opportunity for our students to see the world.
And I can also take, my daughter graduated here in 02, my son in 05. And there were several times in the middle school and in the high school where the literacy classes, they were asked to read certain books that we felt violated our religious views. So we asked them to substitute another book and they come to they violated what we believe. So we could make a big deal out of it. We didn't come here and scream. Sure. But we just asked for a substitute and they were very graciously said, yes, you can read this book following mine. And so that is, there was an option for us. I assume it's still.
It is, and we do that. A lot of our reading and writing program is individualized. So students choose their own text to read. They're able to have agency, work specifically, to the level that they're at and what their interests are.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Anyone else? Love this. We never have fun with this thing now. All right, Mr. Rent, any old business?
No old business, no correspondence.
Okay, we'll move on to the action part of the meeting then. Section 1A minutes, numbers 1 and 2. I need a motion.
Second.
Any discussion? Roll call.
Mr. Staples?
Yes.
Ms. Mount?
Yes.
Mr. Keller?
Yes.
Mr. Servadac?
Yes.
Ms. Winkler?
Yes.
Mr. Scardi?
Yes.
Mr.
Yes. B, travel, number 1. Need a motion?
Second.
Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Mr. Staples?
Yes.
Ms. Mount?
Yes.
Mr. Keller?
Yes.
Mr. Servadac?
Yes.
Ms. Winkler?
Yes.
Mr. Scardi?
Yes.
Mr. Page?
Yes. C, budget items for 2022, 2023, numbers 1 through 4. I need a motion. Motion.
Second.
Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Mr. Staples?
Yes.
Ms. Mount?
Yes.
Mr. Keller?
Yes.
Mr. Servadac?
Yes.
Ms. Winkler?
Yes.
Mr. Scardi?
Yes.
Mr. Page?
Yes. D, Lakehurst tuition, numbers 1 through 3. I need a motion.
Motion.
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, I'll take roll call, please.
Mr. Staples?
Yes.
Ms. Mount?
Yes.
Mr. Keller?
Yes.
Mr. Servadac?
Yes.
Ms. Winkler?
Yes.
Mr. Scardi?
Yes, I'm going to abstain from Ocean County Vocational, number 3.
And Mr. Page?
Yes. E, annual comprehensive financial report, number 1. Need a motion.
Motion?
Second.
Any discussion? I would like to say congratulations, Ms. Norrington, on your doing it here. As a former accountant, I know how tough that is to get 26 years of unqualified opinions. So congratulations to you and your team on doing that.
I can't take credit for all of them, but thank you.
Yeah. The board had part of that, but it is impressive. It is impressive. Roll call, please.
Mr. Staples.
Yes.
Ms. Mount.
Yes.
Mr. Keller.
Yes.
Mrs. Servant.
Yes.
Ms. Winkler.
Yes.
Mr. Scardi.
Yes.
Mr. Pete.
Yes. F, Special Education Council, number 1, need a motion?
Motion?
Any discussion?
Yes, this was also brought to me from members of the CPAC. I understand why we're hiring the attorney, but can you explain to us why we're reaching out other than Mr. Monahan here, so that way everybody knows?
Sure, so would you mind, and then I
Sure.
can jump in.
I don't mind, what happened, I met with the director of special ed and the superintendent, and there was a discussion as to whether I should continue dealing with special education cases or not. And what I indicated was, I have done this in the past, but in the current environment, you specialize. So while I am understanding the law with regards to special ed, I don't have the understanding that special education lawyers who specialize in that have. For example, you could have, and I'm a certified civil trial lawyer. I can try any case anywhere. There's only about 5% of us in the state that have that certification. But the reality of it is, when you're in special ed, you are in the Office of Administrative Law, and you are dealing with issues that are particular to the student with regards to classifications, with regards to programs, with regards to other things of that nature. And it's almost like, if you take, for example, a doctor going into a certain area, he's talking with other doctors, they're talking about specific things that they have the knowledge of. And I don't feel confident that I have that knowledge to participate as a specialist in that area. So I think it's better for the Board of Education that you hire somebody that does only that type of work, because today it is no longer just something that's part of education. It's very significant today. And today, I think we've talked with the superintendent, the different people that we're hiring, the specialties that they have, the certifications that they have, are people that deal in education, not just law. So my specialty is law and dealing with the Board of Education and the law, not the issue of education with regards to special ed students. And I think it's appropriate that the board have somebody that just does that work.
Thank you. All right, anything else? Roll call, please.
Mr. Staples.
Yes.
Ms. Mount.
Yes.
Mr. Keller.
Yes.
Mrs. Servant.
Yes.
Ms. Winkler.
No.
Mr. Scardi.
Yes.
Mr. Pete.
Yes. Section 2, A, administrative, number 1 through 12. I'm going to ask Mr. Lorenzo to please pull item number 11, read that in as a separate one after we vote on the other 1 through 10 and number 12. Can we have a motion, please? This is for everything except for number 11.
Second.
Any discussion?
I just want to say, I'm concerned about the amount of, positions that we are posting or we're going to be having soon. I am for the children, I am for getting what they need because of this pandemic. But I'm just concerned with the amount of positions being posted. I know that the funding is coming from grants and I understand that, but I just want to make that known because I'm a little uncomfortable with it, but on the other side, I get it. I understand as a basic skills interventionist myself, I know it's needed. So I'm on the fence with a lot of them. So, and I know a lot of us feel the same way.
Thank you for sharing. Or anyone else? All right, roll call, Mr. Lorenzo.
Mr. Staples.
Yes.
Ms. Mount.
Yes.
Mr. Keller.
Yes.
Mrs. Servant.
Yes.
Ms. Winkler.
Yes.
Mr. Scardi.
Yes.
Mr. Pete.
No, number 5 and number 7, yes, and the rest. All right, now at this point, we'll read in number 11. The reason for that is there's several of us on the board that are conflicted, that are not able to complete this. So, Superintendent call in those members that are.
Okay, just need somebody to move it in a second.
Oh, did you go to second? Okay.
Motion.
May have- We'll call those members that are eligible.
Mrs. Mount.
Yes.
Mrs. Servant.
Yes.
Ms. Winkler. Mr. Scardi.
Yes.
Everybody. All right, we're good.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, just majority, it's just majority of those.
Majority of those eligible. All right, B, personnel. Numbers 1 through, you have 32 in your agenda. Mr. Armento is going to read in number 33.
Yes, so number 33, we just received this prior to the meeting. We will be accepting the resignation of Taylor Power, who is a custodian here at the middle school, effective immediately.
All right, I have a motion, please.
Motion.
Second. Any discussion?
I just want to congratulate you again, Mr. Navaji. Thank you for your service to the Manchester students and school system.
Any other retirees? All right, may I have a roll call, please?
Mr. Staples?
Yes.
Ms. Mount?
Yes.
Mr. Keller?
Yes.
Mrs. Serbrook?
Yes.
Ms. Winkler?
Yes.
Mrs. Discardi?
Yes.
Mr. P.
Yes. C, student personnel, number 1. Have a motion?
Motion. Second.
Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Ms. Staples? Mr. Staples?
Yes.
Ms. Mount?
Yes.
Mr. Keller?
Yes.
Mrs. Serbrook?
Yes.
Ms. Winkler?
Yes.
Mrs. Discardi?
Yes.
Mr. P.
Yes. D, special professional services, number 1. Need a motion?
Second.
Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Mr. Staples?
Yes.
Ms. Mount?
Yes.
Mr. Keller?
Yes.
Mr. Serbrook?
Yes.
Ms. Winkler?
Yes.
Mrs. Discardi?
Yes.
Mr. P.
Yes. Section 3A, finance, numbers 1 through 5. I need a motion, please.
Second.
Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Mr. Staples?
Yes.
Ms. Mount?
Yes.
Mr. Keller?
Yes.
Mr. Serbrook?
Yes.
Ms. Winkler?
Yes.
Mrs. Discardi?
Yes.
Mr. P.
Yes. All right, we'll open up the floor now to public participation on any item. Yes, Mr. Peck.
Dan Staples, MTBA. I'd just like to thank the board for the contract tonight. I'd like to echo Mr. Lorenzo's statement about the negotiation process and how everything went pretty smoothly. And it was a pleasure and thank you.
Duly noted. Anyone else?
Also a founding member of our CPAC committee, so I understand there's concerns and questionable new positions being addressed specifically, looks to be in the special education realm. So how that will pan out, time will tell, but I am grateful that the district is investing in those students. So hopefully the plans all work out well, and that's all we have right now. But I feel motivated and hopeful that our students outside of the pandemic will continue to improve and become better and more active members of our society in the future. My son goes to regional day, so a lot, health manages now affects his future. So I just want to thank everyone for looking at the special education programs that we've had in place and kind of say, yeah, they're a little antiquated. What can we do to improve those kids' home? So thank you very much.
Thank you. I have a sister who is handicapped, and back in the 60s when she was in school, they were pretty much shunned, if not put aside anymore. And to see the growth that we have as a country, recognizing the value and blessings that they add to our society, is so good to see that we are moving in the right direction. Anyone else? See, no one jumping up, waving a hand or anything. Ask for a motion to dismiss.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. See you April 27th.